was wonderful. Up next, we have another panel discussion. Find out how to build a tech startup from the ground up and turn it into a prosperous business. Now, our panelists will discuss that further. Can I please call upon stage Sanjay Taskar, founder and CEO of Assimilate Technologies, Shahood Siddiqui, CTO of One Tech Capital, Mohammad Hosam Almowaqee, Executive Manager at Trycar, and Harshul Patel, CTO and Executive Director at Eywa. Is it Eywa? Yeah. Thank you very much. A round of applause for our panelists. Thank you. One more panelist and our moderator, Harshal Patel. Yes, Harshal. So we've got a Harshal Patel and we've got a Harshal Patil. Yes, we do. Oh boy.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Are you in the mode of sleep right now? Good afternoon. Very good. So we have esteemed panelists with us, and we are going to talk about the most difficult part, which is scaling up the company. So we have Sanjay Taskar, who is a founder of Assimilate Technologies, Shahood Siddiqui from COFAP, who is a CTO, Hosam, who is the executive at Trycar, and Harshul, who is executive director at Eywa. So before I begin this panel and before I set the context, I just have a quick question for audience actually, so that this is a quick survey. So how many of you ranges between 1 to 10 employees? If you can raise the hand. Okay, between 10 to 30 and above 30. Interesting. So I think, the scaling from 1 to 10 is quite easy in some of the way. Maybe from 10 to 20 is also easy, but when you really cross the 30, I think that's when the scaling challenges really start coming into a picture. And according to, Gartner's recent, update that has come in, one of the main reason behind, scaling up challenges is, there is a perennial disconnection between the three departments. So one is a customer success, which is the operations. Second one is a sales, and third one is a marketing. 70% of the companies are not able to scale their overall operations because there is a perennial disconnection between these three departments. And today we have this esteemed panelist, and they are from the technology and the marketing background and have really shown a seasoned growth out there. So my first question is to Hosam. So I think Trycar is competing with Uber, if I'm correct, a bit.
I hope.
Yeah. So for, before we build a successful business, what are some of the corrective actions that we need to take, according to you? What should be the thought process?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, good evening, everyone. For the starting business, you should think about multiple factors. First of all, you should have a solid plan. It's not like some ideas which has come yesterday and you should open or launch your company the next day. I have seen multiple companies or startups. The ideas came while the guy he is taking his shower, and then he reached to the level that he need to catch his shower just to open his company. That's all leads to cut or shut down the office or the startup. So you need to think about solid plan for the short and the long term, as same powerful and solid. The second key, it should be hiring the right people for you. So you shouldn't hire any kind of people. You should ask about two factors in that, which is the technical or experience side and also the mentality or attitude side. Both of them are important matters. You shouldn't also only hire guys with technical or experience side and forget about the attitude, because this will lead you also to a toxic or failed environment as well. Third point, it should be about when you hire these people, you need to make sure that you need to plant inside them two important keys, which is let them love your business, let them believe in your business, let them own your business, and have the commitment to your work. They should believe in your idea first to achieve your work or achieve your task as well. So that's also an important key to use it. Finally, last but not least, is to keep up with the trends in the country for your factor or for your industry. You shouldn't open a company without having a very dedicated and powerful marketing research. You cannot open without studying the market. If you need to reserve a seat in a market share, you should know your market first. So I think these 4 Ks is almost all the keys you need to have it before starting any business.
Absolutely. Thank you, Hosam. And I think on top of it, I think, operations also plays a very big role, because if the UI is cool, we cannot just ship the product. I think at the back end, there are a lot of, hygiene and some of the best practices which are required. And I think COFAP has, have proved this, because you have been scaling up aggressively across the Dubai and UAE market. So my question to you, Shahood, is, what are some of the management methodologies as a CTO you recommend, or what are some of the hygienes that you recommend while taking this next leap?
Good evening, everyone. So I think first, before discussing about the methodologies, I think that the most important thing for the startup is to have the right leadership. So how you can define the right is the team which can actually sync with each other, right? And then we can discuss about which methodology is right for this particular startup. So a startup has different phases. So maybe in the initial phase, you can go ad hoc, and you just prioritize ad hoc and then see where's the direction. But maybe after like certain phases, you need a framework, you need a methodology, you need a team who can like follow the same methodology, and then you can see that outcome is coming. So for example, like in our company, we follow OKRs and Scrum in the technology team. So OKRs on the leadership level, where you have the objective on the company level, like, okay, for example, in Coffee app, we wanted to launch a subscription model. And we decided that we want to have like 5,000 subscription by the end of this quarter. So this was our objective. How we are going to meet this objective? Of course, like all the departments, including technology, marketing, legal, everyone has to be aligned, and then they can work together to have this outcome by the end of this quarter. So we set the OKRs, we set the objective, all the departments aligned, leadership aligned, marketing department started working with on their key results. Product team started working on the right product designs, and then ultimately by the end of this quarter, we didn't receive 5,000 subscription, we received 5, but we at least received 5. So what we did, we received the 5, and next quarter we hit the 3,000, which means that it is not like important to achieve your 100% OKR, but at least you set the priority, you have the focus, and everyone should work together, right? So to achieve it. And I guess like in the startup, especially, focus is the most important thing, because distraction is coming from everywhere. You have like events coming, you want to participate, and you have a very limited resource, very limited team. And within this limited team, you have to deliver something, right? So, and of course, startups usually have the funding, so you also have to be aligned with the investors. So all these things matters, and I think the right recipe, finding the right recipe for your leadership team is the most important key. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned about the funding, of course, which is a main part of any startup out there. By the way, so when we are talking about here, scaling up the company, so we are not talking about the valuations, but we are talking about the making actual revenue of it. I'm not a fan of valuations, by the way, but I think, yes, the funding is pretty much required. So I think, Harshul, you were in the US, and I think my question to you that, in alignment with this, that is the expected valuation for the company realistic? And, what's a natural way to measure it? Is it revenue or valuation? Okay, and how to deal with investors to avoid this perennial disconnect that is happening between, management and investors? A controversial one, but I think you need to take it.
Absolutely. No worries. Hello, everyone. So, yeah, it's an interesting question, by the way. So let's start, we'll take a few steps back to actually understand what funding is, what revenue is, what kind of methodologies auditors or analysts use to evaluate a company, and the grassroots problem of why there's a disconnect or the perennial disconnect between management and investors. For that matter, it is very similar to the disconnects that you earlier mentioned about, between the sales, the management, the product team, the tech team, etc. So typically, revenue and valuation, they are two different, in a way, sides of the coin, or two different tools. The problem is when entrepreneurs or founders, they start mixing it for the wrong reasons. Evaluation is something that is going to help you raise funds, period. Cash or revenue is what is going to keep you running. If your startup is not able to be profitable, or if it is not generating cash, any form of EBITDA, it could be 1x, 2x EBITDA, whatever it is, doesn't matter, then you definitely have to think about what needs to be done without worrying about the evaluation. And the problem with the new age startups is, let's consider an example of Google and Facebook. When they bought YouTube, when they bought WhatsApp, Instagram, they paid hefty prices. And because of that, it started a trend, or basically, even I as a founder would want that my company should sell at X billion dollars, which is what, like 40 EBITDA, 40x EBITDA, 100 times like my EBITDA? No, it doesn't work that way. Experts or experienced advisors and analysts have always advised that anything around 10x your EBITDA is what is considered to be good. And when you try to sell your startup, or when you try to go for Series A or Series B, I'm not talking about angel investment, because that's when I'm assuming that we are just discussing scaling up, not the initial rounds of funding, right? So the first round of funding. So we're talking about like Series A, Series B, when you're approaching investors for that kind of a funding, you definitely need to know that when experienced analysts tell you that your company cannot go beyond 8x, 9x EBITDA, trust them. You are getting the funding, or you are trying to raise funds for the first time, they have been buying or giving funds X times. Probably they have interacted with 10 different companies of the same area, someone who's already doing what you are doing, and they're still talking to you to get some funds out there. So that's when basically that's the biggest mistake, when we try to go by what the wave is in the market versus what the actual worth of the company is. Now, when Google bought YouTube for 1x billion dollars back in the day, that was few years ago, when even this amount was too big, right? The reason why they bought is they had the vision to make that amount in 1 week, because that's what Google makes these days, correct? We know that from YouTube, Google just in ads revenue makes $1.5 billion a week. At that point, no one would have trusted Google to basically, get, why are they spending so much? That was the question. You, as an entrepreneur, if you have that vision, and if you know that you can reach that revenue, don't exit. Raise. And that's what Snapchat did, right? And if you feel that you are not in a position, or maybe you have the vision, but you are not in a position to achieve that revenue, go for the next series, try to exit as soon as possible. So this fundamental difference of identifying where you can get to, what's your long-term plan, what's your long-term vision. If you are very transparent with the investors about this, that's what basically kills the disconnect. Investors don't care about whether you are spending your money on buying a lavish office, even if it's a depreciable asset. like, you are spending like loads and loads on your furniture or marketing, like, gifting your clients, etc., as long as you're transparent with them. Accountability, transparency, responding back in time is what feels like, makes them feel secure. That's what basically kills the disconnect. The same goes, like, with alignment within the internal teams of the company. Marketing, tech, product, sales, doesn't matter. If the goals are aligned, if they are transparent, this will work, right? So, sorry. So basically, like, this was about where the valuation helps. But with all of this, what keeps the company running is the revenue. What keeps the revenue is the cash on cash every month, quarter on quarter. That's what keeps the company running. So we as founders, we as entrepreneurs need to make sure that we have a close eye on what our spends are, whether we are generating any revenue or not, and then eventually it will help. Because auditors use all kinds of methods, like, cost to duplicate method to evaluate your company, market multiple method, where basically they're going to estimate the valuation of your company based on other companies that got sold, like, in the similar domain. So all of those methods are just evaluations, but at the end, the cash that comes in is what keeps your company running.
Absolutely. And should we be cautious about choosing investors?
Yes, and a very good example actually for this. So when Uber started back in the day, correct? When Travis basically he already had exited his previous company at a good, like, good value, and then his partner also basically had exited for a good value. The one fine night, like in Paris, they came up with this idea of having, like, of ordering a cab from their mobile. Travis, like, as we all know, he is very, like, outspoken. He is very shrewd and agile in his methodologies, and that's what we've been hearing at Uber as well. So he basically, when he approached his first investor, correct, back in the day, they had like a very interesting conversation at one of these meetups in, like, California. So how it worked was, Travis basically was trying to get in touch with this guy, like, for quite some long time, and eventually at one of the parties they just met, and that's where he pitched the idea of Uber. They got down, like, after the party, after the event, they're trying to head home, and this guy is trying to look for a yellow cab, and no one's turning up. It's probably 11 p.m. in the night, whatever. So Travis takes out his phone and, like, he orders a Uber app right from his pilot version. They get home together, and while they reach the investor's house, like, he just lets the Uber go. He had that confidence that he wants to get funds only from this particular guy and not from anyone else. Why? Because he had read that this guy will give full control of the company to Travis as the CEO, as the owner, or as the ideator.
Absolutely.
Given that the control is with you, and if you're really clear with what you want to do, go for it. Because otherwise, there are many companies that have failed due to this, like, just choosing the wrong investors, just choosing the wrong, like, guys who don't have the vision, and maybe you and the investor are not aligned to what you really want to do.
Absolutely. I think in alignment with this, I think, digital transformation is also going to play a big role while scaling up, in alignment with the previous panel discussion. But I think, Sanjay, as you are into a product engineering section of it, do you know any solutions which will bridge the gap of this perennial disconnection that is happening around between the sales, marketing, and customer success? Or from your perspective of technology, how to accelerate, how to keep all the plates running at one time?
Am I audible? Yeah, thank you. So good evening, gentlemen. So business scalability is all about efficiency and growth, right? And to be genuinely scalable in the modern sense of word, business or organization organization must accommodate increase in demand. So that is the one thing. Second, be top on the things. Like whatever business you are doing, you should be on top of that particular thing. You should not like a moderate level or lower level. which all people are doing the same things. So that one thing. Then anticipate the needs. Just try to do a survey of the market, what things you are doing, how you can anticipate the market need, and how you can generate a traction over there. So that third thing you need to make sure. And fourth thing I would like to say over here, be agile enough to handle a disruption. If there is one thing is not working, you should be able to handle a focus on another thing and keep trying the things. If you do this way, agile way, you will get a success over there. So that's the one thing I would like to tell over here. So scaling a business in terms of a startup, I would recommend all the startup entrepreneur, do not start doing all the things yourself. I would recommend them to categorize the thing I can handle the customer success. So become a customer success. Keep yourself free to generate the interest in a people and make awareness about your product and services to people, so that they can they can buy your product or services. So over here, as most of the startup entrepreneur doing one common mistake, that is they wanted to do everything. This is a common mistake happens as an entrepreneur. So I would recommend everyone just try to build a team, at least 4 to 5 people, and delegate your responsibility to each and everyone. So that as a business owner, you will get enough time to think on the non-required, the most needing things, which you can do, and rest of the things can be handled by your pair of teams. So you are building some technical product. So in that case, don't try to onboard your own technical team and sit with them and develop the product. So instead of that, just hire some agency who could help in building such a product for you. They will take care of the product development. And meanwhile, you can take care of the marketing and other investment aspect. So in a short period of time, you can build such a product and you can go to the market and you can see the traction. So at the time of building a product, do not go for the entire product development also. So most of the startup doing this mistake as well. They are not testing their ideas in a market. So this is another challenge we are seeing in a market. So you can hire a consultant who can build your MVP, like a minimal viable product, which you can bring in a market. You can test this MVP with at least 100, 200 or 1,000 customers and see the traction. Okay, once you see the traction, you will get an idea whether my idea is genuine. Can I invest more? Can I find the investor? Okay, so that's why I'm saying instead of delegating each and everything to yourself, just try to build a team of responsible person, like-minded people, and work on that particular vision. So that could help you to bridge the gap and be successful in a market. And we could help you in building any kind of technical product, and we can build your MVP in 45 days. Absolutely. So that's our USP.
Yeah. Thank you, Sanjay. So I think in alignment with this, Shahood, I have one question for you, which is slightly a technical and operational side of it. So I think while building a company, there are 4 factors which is required, which is speed is one, agility is another, accuracy is the third one, and fourth one is the transparency, right? So given these goals, which approach has worked for COFAP while achieving the scalability that has made most sense for you for organization, and that has helped you to ramp up your operational capacities? So what is your thoughts upon that?
So
what are your thoughts?
I think all of them are important, but for the early stage startup, I think speed is the most important thing. It doesn't matter if you fail. So you have an idea, you have to test fast, and you have to fail fast. If you are going to take time to develop it and then run it to market and waiting for the right time, and then try to not to fail in the market, this will actually waste whole year for a startup. And I think for a startup, 1 or 2 years, if you waste these early 2 years, then you are out. Because any other market, even someone who tries to copy you, they will take over the market. Because you have to, and at this stage, after pandemic, so there are so many ideas which you run within a quarter, and you cannot run everything. So you have to try one by one, see which is giving you the right feedback from the customers, what customer is liking. Maybe this MVP is one thing, but MLP, the most lovable product, is another thing which I really like, and I try to like convince my team to don't think like you have to launch the right thing every time, because I don't want to launch it and take 6 months. I want to take 3 months, launch it and see the feedback, and by the time I can develop it. And I think this is the thing which is working for us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in alignment with this, I think there is one, maturity point when we are a startup, and at that particular maturity point, we really need, we get that particular pulse that, okay, this is the point, and from this point, we need to scale it up. And I think, your company is one of the example of it. So when do we know that it's the right time to scale?
Okay. So the right time to scale is also depending on different factors. First of all, you don't need to panic for scaling. So not from the initial or first sign you get it that you are getting bigger, you should get scale. You should wait for multiple signs it's coming to you and give you a good sign about improving your revenue and your cash flow. Then you can see that we are ready for scaling and for growing or expanding to other places. The other factor is you should think, as I mentioned before, you should think that are you having a strong and good team who have the passion with the new challenge. If you don't have that, you shouldn't go for expanding or growing in another place. So strong team means that this team is ready for fighting, full fuel to go to beyond any other places. Also, you need to check the health situation of your company or your industry, by the way. Your industry, if it's going down or it's about to death, you shouldn't think about scaling because this is the level or limit you are reaching to. So also thinking about the health situation is a good matter. On the other hand, you should have a good study for your market about your industry. So and try to pick the evaluation or coming of the market improvement one by one and fastly, as Shahood also mentioned. The last thing is you shouldn't change in your market or in your industry before a study or before study your step. You should watch your step, you should study it well, and then you need to move it. These five factors which you need to take
Absolutely,
about.
absolutely. And I think while scaling up, for a lot of the companies have a tendency to dilute their buyer persona in a way. So let's say if they are reaching out to a certain set of audience before, so while scaling up, they literally broaden their criteria. So I think CoffApp is a SaaS product and your company is a services one. So I have this question for both of you: that what is the best roadmap? Is it going niche or broaden your criteria and test it out? What do you recommend? What kind of strategies have worked for you?
Right. So that's again like a good one. So it would really depend on the type of product that you're building. I'll give you an example. The key or the answer, a one-line answer is that you have to be open. You have to basically keep your eyes open and watch out for opportunities, whether to have a niche in a certain area or just pivot, not necessarily expand the horizon or widen the criteria of customers that you're trying to cater. Pivot, maybe, who knows. So there's this very small startup that started back in the day around 2012. It's called Wetpix. Okay, so it's from North Carolina in the States, where no one would expect that starting a startup in this state where there's no vibe or buzz for any startup thing, very laid back like countryside kind of environment. And there are three founders, so Justin and two of his friends. They came up with this idea to capture like photos and videos so that the local musicians or the band people there, they could just upload videos and get it viral in their own community, so that at least they have some platform to share their videos and, like, have audiences, get some views and impressions. The point being, like 2012, they started this app. They weren't clear what to do, whether, like, to have a niche, whether to build like a super techie photo app when there are already tons in the market. Investors said that you're not getting anything from us. Why are you even doing it when we have so many apps in the market? They still continued. They built their MVP. They are still not sure what to do. They can either niche, they can build something like Snapchat where, like, there's all these jazzy filters and features for recommendations and feeds and stuff, or they could have just basically looked for data analysis. Data analysis at that point was not very technical, right? The user behavior, what do your users actually do in your app, was not limited, or basically there was no way to find out, like, by running big data analytics or, like, some user behavior algorithms to see what's happening. It was very manual at that point. What they did was they basically started evaluating what their users, what kind of videos do we actually have in our app, if at all. They realized that most of them were bride videos. So everyone who's getting ready for, like, their wedding, big day, girls used to brides used to just like click pictures, photos, share it internally. Am I looking good, not good, etc., etc. Like, and that's how it worked. These guys realized the potential. Justin himself, after that, at every wedding, just stood with a booth stating that you can use our app for free just to share photos. That's how it got converted into a Wetpix app, eventually running for 2.5 million users, raising a good about 10 or 11 in Series A, Series B. Sorry?
So your key takeaway is to go niche.
Go niche, but be open to what your customers are doing.
Okay.
Now, that can either be manual, and in today's age, you can have like a lot of these customer feedback forums of how to basically observe or monitor your what your customers are doing. If you have a list of 100 features that you want to build as your product, as Sanjay rightly said, just note down the first 20, build them as MVP, scrap the other 80, because the next 80 will be driven by your customers. Whether you want to go niche, whether you want to build something else, whether you want to build pivot the product completely, would really depend on what your customers want, not what you emotionally or sentimentally wanted to build it.
Absolutely. What is your perspective?
So I think I can give you one example from coffee, right? So a coffee app, if you see from outside, you will see it is extremely complicated because it has everything right now. We call it super app, but we didn't start as a super app, right? So you cannot do everything at the same time. We started with pickup and focused only on pickup. Like, our main goal was to make sure that when customer thinks that he wants coffee, you don't have to go and stand up on the line. So it was only skip the line, get the coffee, and enjoy the coffee. Then we realized, okay, there is a appetite for delivery, and then there is an appetite for fast delivery. Because for delivery, for B2B market, of course, when they are in the meeting room, they want the coffee to get delivered. So why not us? Especially when you wake up in the morning and you want a coffee, so why not fast delivery? So all these things depends on the customer need, but you cannot do everything at the same time. It will increase the cost and you cannot test what exactly they want. But of course, when we focus on the pickup, we make sure that we reach that level that even customer can order using their Apple Watch, using their Apple CarPlay while driving. So technology-wise, we focused and try to conquer one single thing, and then now we are launching our e-commerce as well. So again, phase by phase, and I think it depends what exactly the vision is, right? So yeah, that's the answer.
Absolutely. And I think while scaling up, there is one common challenge that a lot of the startups have seen. It's a leaky bucket challenge. The water is, coming in, as in the new customers are coming in, but there is hole down there and customers are going out. So that leaky bucket challenge is one of the, critical one. So this is an open question. Anyone can answer. So what is the importance of customer feedback while doing this process? Because we cannot scale if there is a leaky bucket problem out there.
Yep.
Okay, so regarding the customer feedback, as you mentioned, is one of the important thing you should ask about it. But on the other hand, you should to also study it well to build a business need which met also the customer feedback. Yes, it's important. It's the most important thing, but also as everyone know, not all customer feedback you should take about it. That's in the backstage we are doing it. But in the front stage, yes, it's important to certain level, and we should take care about it for sure.
I think, especially in the marketplace, Trycar is also a
Yes,
marketplace, right? So there are a lot of things which are not in our hand as a marketplace
exactly.
player, right? So customer is facing the problem because of the vendor, and maybe the barista who prepared his coffee was not right. So, but he's giving us the feedback that, oh, I didn't like the coffee, and he gave us a bad rating. So basically, dig deeper, try to identify the problem, set the right SLA with the vendors, and then deduct the money if it is possible. Because of course there is like a customer service team. Whenever customer complains, they refund the money, right? So this is actually the leakage. You are losing all the money. You are saying, okay, GMV is coming, but it is actually by the end of the month it is half. Why? Because refund happened because of we didn't make any mistake. So all these things happens, and I think monitoring everything, each and every step, is important for the startup. Yeah.
Yeah, but one more point for that. What Shahood said about sometimes it's not Trycar or Coffee fault, it's not customer fault, it's by vendor. But you should defend your vision because the user is ordering from your company. That's why we are refunding this money or try to apologize in the way. On the other hand, sometimes it's coming from the customer itself. It's not coming from the vendor. So one of the thing that happened in Trycar, one of the customer tried to order. By the way, for the guys who don't know Trycar, Trycar is for rent car application. It's in Kuwait, and we hope that we will expand soon, inshallah. One of the customer, he ordered a car from one of the biggest agencies we have in Kuwait, and when he need to go to deliver the car, he declined to define his address or put his address in the contract. So no one can give him the car, and then he said, "What this bad service? It's I don't need to put my address. Why you need to ask for the address?" And then I discovered that this order is delivery order. So how we can deliver your order if we don't have your address? But then still the user is blaming the Trycar and blaming the vendor. This is what one of the cases I said that not every time you should take customer feedback as main feedback.
Absolutely. Sanjay, you want to add anything?
Yeah, sure. So customer feedback always play like a great role over here. So through a customer feedback, we come to know that where we are lacking, what things need to be improved. So there will be exception, always exception. Like never like if you receive the 100 feedback, so out of that 10-20% would be a negative. So leave it. Negative thing we can ignore easily. But the things out of that negative also we can identify whether the given feedback is correct or not. We need to retrospect on that particular thing. And the positive feedback always gives the energy to do more. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
that's the
Yeah.
thing I would say.
So I think we are just 2 minutes short. So I think last question, and it has to be only one liner from each one of you. And the question is, what is the one advice that you want to give today from your overall experience that you have learned through your startup journey? What is that one thing that we need to do right in order to scale the company? Only one advice, one liner.
Try and orchestrate your company rather than being a doer. Orchestrate in the sense, build a good team, delegate as much as you can, go live with the MVP as soon as possible. If there's negative customer feedback, use it to your advantage, like Disney and Uber did.
Thank you.
So I would like to tell the people do the SWOT analysis, like identify your strength, identify your weaknesses, grab the opportunity, and identify your threats. If you do this, you can scale out any way.
I think focus is the most important thing. And this is what I learned from last like 11 years, that if you don't focus and you do everything at the same time, you lose ultimately. So
From my perspective, is believing in the idea, work on it, think about creative plans just to keep scaling always and always.
Absolutely. And from my side, I think it's only one line of Mr. Philip Kotler. It takes a day to learn about marketing and it takes lifetime to master. So I think while scaling up, I think we all need to master the art of the marketing. I would like to open it up for the question and answers.
Hello, hello. First of all, thank you for the informative panel. It was great. I was more so wondering about that idea. You mentioned leadership is very important, and everyone has their own recipe for leadership. And going back to your point of mentality, how would you say, or what are some key ingredients to that recipe from your point of view?
So, especially in the startup, I think what's the difference between startup and the other companies? Startup usually try to bring the talent from different companies, right? So, in different companies, people grow along with you. And in certain startups, of course, when you are in early stage, it's your idea and you build the team. But when you are in a different phase, you bring different leadership from different companies. So first, bringing the right leadership team and then making sure that they actually indulge with each other. And then it takes time because people are different. They are coming from different backgrounds. So finding the right recipe, maybe one person is like wants to write a lot and other person doesn't want to. He wants to speak and he just want to present. The one person is more into 6-pager type of meetings like Amazon, and other is more PowerPoint type. So these are things which you as a leader, I'm talking about like CEO, you need to decide, okay, for my company, this is the thing which will work, because, and everyone has to speak the same language ultimately, and they need to align. Yeah.
Thank you for that answer. That's it. Cheers.
Have a couple of questions. Before pandemic to now, the mindset of the investors also is changing. I mean, before pandemic, investors always used to look for growth, right? Now, the language investors speak is the profitability, cash efficiency, right? How do you see this impacting the startups, right? That is my question number one. Question number two, the initial days of startup, the growth being very critical, right? And if you focus more on profitability and the cash efficiency, right? Both are contradicting, right? You need to look at the profitability, cash efficiency, and the growth. How do you really suggest, what are your recommendations? How do you manage these contradicting priorities?
Anyone wants to take it up? Yeah. So I think you might have seen the recent example of Twitter, right? Elon Musk acquired the Twitter, and the first thing that he started doing is to optimize his costs out there. So if it is happening with such a big brand like Twitter, I think it is very obvious that it will happen with startups like us. But I think that's where one of the questions that I asked to Harshal was, should we choose investors? I think based on your product line, I think it is very important that we should reflect on choosing the right investors for ourselves, because there are two types of investors that I have seen. The first one is they are very patient and they will stay with you for, let's say, longer time of period. They understand the sales cycle pretty well, and they will indulge with your vision, right? And the second side of it is the money oriented investors. Actually, they want quick returns. They will provide you the money, but they want very quick returns. So I think as a founder, I think we also need to keep the patience before choosing any investor, right? And to answer your second question about the growth, I think uh, recently I attended one of the conferences with investors, and I think what they have recommended is, I think, optimizing the entire marketing budgets as one of the important things, and embracing the organic channels more, and not spending more money on the digital ads and those kind of things. So I think over there, the key takeaway of that particular conference, the main conference, was to get along with the revenue operations and select only optimal way of advertising your business right now. And there is one company called Simply Learn, which is in India. And it has been growing significantly only with one channel, and that channel is YouTube. And they are growing it with organically. And if you will see their spends, surprisingly, they are at extremely on a lower side of it. So I think the key takeaway of inducing a growth strategy is to select only one or two channels maximum, and then capitalize on that particular part.
Thank you. So how does your view, like you spoke about the EBITDA positive,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
Which again, if I relate to the investors' mindset, they also look for the EBITDA positive and the cash efficiency. And so, what is your view on that?
Yes. So as Harshal rightly mentioned, it's important basically to choose the right investor. Specifically speaking about pre-pandemic times and post-pandemic times. See, what has happened during pandemic is that the tech world has erupted. So let's say if valuation for a particular idea was X pre-pandemic, we were not even aware of what happens next. During pandemic, somehow that valuation went on to 3x, 4x, 5x. That built our mindset over the last 3 years to expect a lot more than what we would have expected back in the day. Today, what's happened is that that particular bubble has erupted. I mean, basically, it's burst now. We are in a state where investors are in the pre-pandemic mindset with more cautions. And that more cautions and precautions basically, or their conservative mindset, is because of the balloon that just got burst in the last 3-4 years. That is what is causing them to focus more on cash flow, cash on cash basis. Probably they won't expect profitability so much, but then at least they need to see some numbers coming in, some revenue coming in. So if we are planning a startup, at least this year, next year, unless things take a calm, unless the storm calms down, we have to focus on some kind of a subscription model, freemium model. Even if you start with something like the first 12 months are free, subscribe, get customer data, at least you are getting customers on board and retaining them for a period, and in the same way promising your investors that after 12 months you will see revenue coming in, because you are offering some kind of a freemium subscription model. And that's why these days all these apps, they have all of a sudden taken a turn and trying to adopt this subscription model. So that's one of the solutions I would say that even I personally feel is right in this era, or in these couple of years where we stand right now.
Thank you.
There is time for last question, please.
Just one
Quick
last question.
Okay.
Go for it.
Hello. Which one is better? Should I start without scaling or without needing for investors, or should I go by myself, targeting a narrow niche, and then in the future thinking about someone investing in me, or scaling out the because I'm scared of the investing idea, because as you mentioned that maybe they'll control, they will not give me the control. So which one is the best?
Actually, regarding this point, both solutions is work. It depends on with whom you are dealing. You can start with self-funding, and also you can start with investor. But from my perspective, at least, you will reach to the breakpoint level where you will need investor. But by that level, you should have dedicated business analysis or data you have with your revenue, with your plan, and what you have for future plan. Then you can look for good funding, which make your business scaled. So you can start with both, but reaching to investor level, you will reach it. That from my perspective.
Okay.
I just want to add one thing here. So it depends how powerful your network is. So if you have the network, and if you have enough fund to sustain the initial phase of your startup, why would you want to dilute your shares, right? So of course no. But if you really want to have the network and initial capital, of course you have to go for the funding. And finding the right investor, which Harshal was emphasizing today, I think is the most important thing. A strategical partner is what you want. And for example, if you have the choice between a family, an Arab family investment or Aramco, which one is better? Of course, you will go for Aramco, right? So this is the thing which you want to choose between. And then if you decide the right thing initially, maybe Aramco will give you less money than the family. But I would suggest go for the Aramco so that it will be a strategical partnership later on.
I see. Thank you. Appreciate
And I
it.
think the hybrid is, the crowdsourcing as well.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. That was lovely.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. A round of applause for our panelists.